Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the invitation to visit Kyrgyzstan with an official visit, especially the visit to Lake Issyk-Kul, which is considered a natural pearl of the Republic and the entire Eurasian space. We have just had a meeting with the President of the Republic of Kyrgyzstan, Sadir Nurgajoyevich, and we discussed the issues that are considered at the level of heads of state when determining the strategic directions of our further cooperation. On May 9th, the presidents met in Moscow to celebrate our common victory over the German invaders, the contribution of which was made by all the peoples of the Soviet Union. And today, we especially noted the contribution of the Kyrgyz Soviet Socialist Republic. We agreed to continue cooperation in the direction of countering the falsification of history and upbringing of the younger generation in the spirit of respect and loyalty to the memory of heroic ancestors. In addition to the meeting with the President, today, Zhenibek Moldakanovich and I held circumstantial negotiations both as a narrow group and as a delegation. We discussed in detail the entire range of issues of Russian-Kyrgyz interaction in the context of the tasks set by the presidents, outlined plans for its further development, and calculated the agreed proposals to report to the heads of state. Very soon, on July 27th, as my colleague and friend just said, we will celebrate the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Eternal Friendship, Alliance and Partnership between the Russian Federation and the Kyrgyz Republic. We will mark this date with dignity and plan special events, which I am sure will be warmly welcomed by the citizens of our countries. We talked about trade, economic and investment cooperation. Russia, as one of the leading partners of Kyrgyzstan, grew by more than 22% as a result of last year. Last year, trade increased significantly, reaching $4 billion. The heads of state set the goal of bringing this figure to $5 billion. It should be noted that the share of national currencies in mutual export-import operations has reached 98%. Russian direct investments in the country's economy are growing. Russia is one of the leading investors in the economy of Kyrgyzstan. We welcomed the important and coordinating role of the Intergovernmental Russian-Kyrgyz Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific and Technical and Humanitarian Cooperation. Its 26th session is planned to be held here in Kyrgyzstan this year. We talked about increasing cooperation in the humanitarian sphere, primarily in the field of education. Both sides emphasized the importance of launching a joint project to modernize the Kyrgyz-Russian Slavic University, including the construction of a new campus. This work is becoming more practical. We also discussed the issue of labor migration. In the last couple of weeks, we held a number of intensive and substantive meetings, including a visit by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kyrgyzstan to the Russian Federation, where we held substantive consultations with the Russian Ministry of the Interior, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Digital Affairs. We attach great importance to compliance with the rules of residence of foreign citizens in our country and to timely regulation of their legal status within the framework of the Eurasian Economic Union and internal regulation of this issue by the last decree of the President of the Russian Federation since January this year. We are interested in the flow of labor migrants. You are well aware of this. Our friends in Kyrgyzstan are also interested in ensuring that people who come to work in the Russian Federation feel comfortable. For this, it is necessary for everyone to regulate their status. For this, there are all the grounds, as I have already said, both in the context of the Eurasian Economic Union and with the opportunities provided by the Russian legislative and legal base. We have considered the international agenda. We have a coincidence or closeness of views on most issues. We want to ensure respect for all the non-contact compliance of the UN Charter principles in all their totality and interconnection. We will continue to coordinate within the framework of the Cooperation of Independent States, the Organization of the Collective Security Treaty, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and other platforms. We have positively appreciated the cooperation in the Central Asia-Russia format. We expressed our gratitude to the President and the Foreign Minister for the detailed information on the current efforts of the Bishkek within the framework of the presidency of the Organization of the Collective Security Treaty. Russia provides all the necessary assistance to our allies. We are ready, of course, to help the Kyrgyz friends and their upcoming presidency in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization starting in September 2025. By the way, the Kyrgyz Guard will have another anniversary, the 25th anniversary of the Shus. We are united in the need to consolidate efforts to combat terrorism and extremism. We have considered the issue of strengthening security both in the Central Asian region and in the Eurasian region as a whole. We drew the attention of our colleagues to the Russian initiative to form a large Eurasian partnership as a social and economic foundation for efforts to create in Eurasia an architecture of equal and indivisible security. We see these processes as developing through the restoration of close ties between various integration unions on our common continent, namely Eurasia, the CIS, ASEAN, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and a number of other integration structures that are located here and are increasing their activity. Of course, the situation in the Middle East and the Middle East is not the same as the situation in Palestine and Iran. We expressed our appreciation to our friends for the balanced and objective position on the efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. We are convinced that in order to resolve all issues reliably, the root causes of this crisis must be eliminated, first of all, as President Putin has emphasized more than once, by eliminating the threat of Russia's security, which arose as a result of NATO's expansion to the east, attempts to draw Kiev into the North Atlantic Alliance with plans to create military infrastructure on the territory of Ukraine, infrastructure aimed at the Russian Federation. It is equally important to stop the criminal activities of the Kiev regime for the legitimate extermination of all the rights of Russian and Russian-speaking residents of Ukraine, which are guaranteed by the constitution of this country, but which were legitimately exterminated, as well as the Russian language at all stages of education, in the media, in the cultural sphere, and in many other areas. Against this background, of course, we are surprised to hear and look at the spells that sound from the European capitals. Recently, Macron and the Chancellor of Germany, Merz, wrote a joint article, "Europe must arm itself." Russia is the main threat. It is waging imperialistic wars. In 2008, it invaded Georgia. In 2014, it invaded Crimea and Donbass. In 2022, it will invade the territory of the entire Ukraine. Putin's goal is to undermine European security. I think that one of these quotes is enough for a person who knows little about what is happening in Europe and follows the events to understand that these figures have lost their common sense and are trying to return to those times when France and Germany wanted to conquer all of Europe. First of all, the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union. It is sad that they are returning to those instincts. And you know, the recent statement of Chancellor Merz is especially unpleasant, that Ukraine must be made strong, not to succumb to Russian tricks, because otherwise Europe will repeat the experience of the 1930s, when the leading European powers decided to pacify the aggressor in the face of Hitler's Germany. This is an amazing comparison for a person who claims to have serious relations with him as the Chancellor of the Federal Republic. I do not recall that in the Czech Republic, Poland, or any other European country where Nazi Germany invaded, the German language was forbidden, the German culture was forbidden, monuments to Goethe, Schiller, and Kant were demolished. This did not happen. This is what Mr. Merz confused me with. It seems to me that this is a very serious topic without any explanation, and it makes no sense to continue talking to Europe. What the Nazis of Germany and the modern Ukrainians have in common is their attitude towards those they want to enslave. The Nazis burned Jews just because they were Jews, and the Nazis of Ukraine burned Russian people in Odessa on May 2, 2014, just because they were Russian. I would advise Mr. Merz to clarify these parallels for himself. But, of course, we will continue to defend, as President Putin said recently, the fair settlement of the Ukrainian crisis, open to honest work, but to the swindler's approach, which is being pushed by some European leaders. Of course, we will not be ready for this. In conclusion, I would like to say that we will continue our close cooperation on the lines of our foreign and political departments. We have signed a program of cooperation between the Ministries of Foreign Affairs for the 25th and 27th years during the official visit of Zhirinovsky to Russia.